Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the 7th installment in the most beloved series on my channel, where we take a look at the Dexter books written by Jeff Lindsay. Today we take a look at Dexter's final cut. The journey with these books are almost over, and to those who have been so patient with me since I've started these uploads, thank you. It means so much to me. And honestly, even if you haven't watched all of them, and this is your first entry into the series, I still thank you. Every single one of you watching means so much to me. The book opens up with Dexter getting a phone call from Captain Matthews asking him to meet him in his office. As Dexter arrives there, he notices a few other people in the room, Deborah and a small group of people he did not know. One of these people being a woman, who Dexter found so incredibly beautiful that he was actually ogling at her like nothing he'd ever done before. After he'd picked his jaw back up off the floor, he noticed another man, wearing sunglasses indoors with a terrific haircut and mustache. And this was when Captain Matthews explained to the Morgan siblings why the group was there. They were shooting a pilot for a TV show, and they needed some in-field research. So Mr. Mustache would be glued to Dexter's hip and given whatever he needed, a direct order from the captain. This man's name was Robert Chase, and the goddess, as Dexter called her, was Jackie Forrest. So she was there to learn from Deb, who was very displeased with this arrangement. Now Dexter was as well. Deb just vocalized it far more. They wrapped up the meeting, and Dexter was now off to teach Robert his ways, which was funny enough because not only did Robert immediately call him Derek, but he also told Dexter he didn't like blood. And since Dexter was a blood spatter analyst, this led to some confusion. But nevertheless, Robert was basically Dexter's shadow for the whole week, asking him inane questions while also mimicking Dexter's professional mannerisms, which Dexter did not find very pleasing. Fast forward, and now it was time for them to check out a real crime scene. This was a disgusting one. It was what once was a young woman, with her blonde hair ripped out and her body and head mutilated, and it turned even the most experienced forensic analysts squeamish, due to finding male reproductive fluid in her busted eye socket. Dexter couldn't really figure out what exactly this could mean and why this guy would do this, and he wouldn't find this out for the time being. Later on, as Dexter was leaving to go home, Chase stopped him and asked him what exactly he did with his away time from work. And after Dexter told him that he spent his time with his wife and kids, rather than his other favorite pastime, Chase asked him how old his kids were, and something slightly rustled inside the dark passenger. They ended the conversation awkwardly, and Dexter headed home for some dinner. After he was finished eating, he began to think about the body again, the violation, the yanked hair, the eyes, the biting and gnawing. It was all to get the victim to truly see them, to finally see them, and for failing to do so before. Dexter continued to imagine this, and then his imagination switched. He unconsciously started to think about canoodling with Jackie, and this annoyed him. He was annoyed because his brain swapped from all of that horrendous murder and violation into a daydream about something far more normal. Dexter hated this and blamed it on indigestion and went to bed. Fast forward through some familial bickering, Dexter was back at work at the start of the week, and Robert immediately began asking all sorts of questions about Dexter's kids again, and apparently spent the weekend at some sort of private resort in Mexico. None of this was as important, as Dexter was summoned by the angry monster that was his sister, and he brought Robert along. Since Deb wasn't designated to the case of the poor brutalized blonde woman because she had to help Jackie, she found a workaround where she would conduct a side-by-side investigation of the case as a simulation for Jackie's character. This was so Captain Matthews couldn't say anything if he found out. Now fast forward through a conversation discussing the how and why the killer would act like he did and commit the atrocities he committed, and it seemed that Jackie actually understood where Dexter was coming from with a lot of his theories, and it also seemed that Dexter had an otherworldly crush on Jackie. A while later, Deb gets a hit from her contacts and figures out that this killer has done this at least a few times before in different cities across the states, all blonde women with similar brutality. This is when Jackie looks over the pictures with Dexter and mentions that she was there in those cities on the dates that those bodies were found, and the women did resemble her. And this was when Dexter put forward the theory that the killings were actually about her. And after some pushback from Deb due to lack of evidence, Jackie admitted she did in fact have a stalker, who, surprise surprise, sent her a photo back of herself with a messed up eye. Jackie clearly needed protection, and she didn't want to hire a bodyguard, so she asked Dexter to keep her safe. Deb gave him her backup gun, and off they went. Dexter went home and got a bag and hygiene products and spoke to Rita about this secret opportunity to make a bunch of money. And that's when Dexter started commenting on Rita's aging appearance. In his head, of course. And honestly, I have to say, personally, I've been keeping this to myself so far, but this whole Dexter crushing on the movie star plot to the point where he's degrading his own wife in his head just seems so wildly out of character for him. It's really weird. I don't like it at all. Now the scene switches to Jackie and Dexter at a hotel, and they flirt a little bit, and Jackie's assistant shows up unannounced and nearly gets her head blown off by Dexter. After this, Dexter and Jackie go drinking and eating, and eventually they head in for the night. The following day, Dexter checks on Jackie in her room and orders room service, and once again just starts shit-talking Rita in his head, saying there was no contest between her and Jackie. I'm just despising this little romantic subplot. Now a little bit later, back at the station, they got an ID on Jackie's stalker friend, Patrick Birdman. They went over his demented letters, which were chock full of that "you will see me" nonsense. They talked about how they were going to keep Jackie safe, and now Dexter was back off to Robert, who now introduced his friend Remy, who was going to be playing his forensic sidekick, something akin to how Robert saw Masuka to Dexter. And when Dexter shook Remy's hand, he thought he saw something deep and dark within Remy. Fast forward to Dexter and Jackie back at the hotel, and after some talking and more disrespect to Rita, Dexter once again begins to swoon over this woman he's just met, and a little bit later back at work they were. He dropped Jackie off with Deb and returns to Robert duty. It was at this time that Dexter started to put the puzzles together in his head. Robert's infatuation with Dexter's family, his longing looks at Dexter, and Dexter came to the conclusion that Robert had to be gay. But he had no time to deal with this. He only had a few days left until Jackie and Robert were gone, and he wanted to get rid of Patrick Birdman. He only had a couple hours to do it, so he wouldn't be able to do it in the way he wanted to, but it was what he had to do, because he had some obligation to Cody and the school and everything like that. He was able to track down Patrick's location through Facebook. Patrick was staying in a predator's colony, as it was truly the only place that he could camp out, because if he was stalking Jackie all the time, he clearly did not have enough time to make any money, and Miami looked down on homelessness due to the constant tourism. So camping out with the other degenerates seemed like the best option. Now as Dexter arrived there with a clipboard and tie as a disguise, he realized Patrick was not at his tent, spoiling his little window of opportunity. Now back at work, Vince told Dexter that the killer had struck again, and this time there was a witness who saw somebody dump the body and take off in a kayak. Vince also showed Dexter a unique piece of evidence he found at the scene, which was a bar of soap from the hotel Dexter and Jackie were staying at. Patrick was close. And what seemed like pure coincidence is at the scene, Dexter peers out towards the water and sees Patrick on his kayak. So he slips out and goes to his boat and begins his aqua hunt for Patrick. When he catches up to Patrick, he rams his kayak with the boat, and after apologizing, saying it was an accident, he helps him onto his boat, and this is where he pulls his knife out and takes Patrick out. Later on, after the parent-teacher conference with Cody and Dexter disrespecting his wife even more in his crazy little head, he was now back with Jackie. A little bit later now, Dexter, Jackie, Robert, and everybody else were together, and Deb showed up with Cody, Aster, and the babies, both Lillian and Nicholas. Rita had asked her to watch them, so she brought them with her. And weirdly enough, Robert paid a little too much attention to Aster and even invited her to spend some time with him alone. Jackie came over to Dexter and started talking to him, and her assistant Kathy came from where it seemed Aster and Robert were, with Robert coming out looking flustered, asking where Kathy went. Dexter didn't think much of this and eventually sent the kids home with Deb. Dexter and Jackie headed back to the hotel to get ready, as they were going to Remy's comedy show. And when they got there, Jackie ended up kissing Dexter before they faced the oncoming crowd, which bewildered the hell out of him. And as they got out of the car, the crowd barraged them, and Dexter made it all the way to Rita inside with a few holes in his new shirt. Captain Matthews had told Dexter to bring his wife to the comedy show, as this comedy show was actually Remy's, and it was to promote the upcoming TV show they were trying to make. Now when he reached Rita inside, he had a few new holes in his shirt from the crowd, and some smudged lipstick on his shirt that he would keep to himself, because Rita did not need to know anything about what him and Jackie were doing. After the show, Dex walked Rita to her car, and he had spent the majority of the show with fantasies of Jackie and the high life, just all really weird shit. And later on, back at the hotel with Jackie, they heard police sirens coming to the hotel. Deb called Dexter and told him that Kathy had been murdered a floor down. This broke Jackie's heart, and it was looking pretty bad considering how Dexter had already killed Patrick, and either he was the wrong guy the whole time, or someone else was picking up where Patrick left off. Nevertheless, Jackie didn't want to be alone that night, but they did sleep together. Kinda strange, but grief affects everyone differently, I guess. There was even a really weird moment with Dexter and Jackie's breasts that just felt so odd. He was like obsessing over them, like descriptively. They had a conversation the next morning where Dexter even made a comment saying he'd leave his family for her. This is just so out of character for Dexter. This reminds me of the kind of irritation I felt when Dexter in the show said something along those same lines with Hannah. How the first true time he felt love was with Hannah. It was just all bullshit. It's so random and I hate it. Even take his daughter Lillian. She was such a big part of Dexter's change. He was going to stop killing completely for her, and yet this random woman he's known for 2 weeks is suddenly enough for him to get up, leave his entire life, and just move to Hollywood. Because fast forward a little bit later, Detective Anderson, who's who's been in charge of the entire case, asks Jackie to check through Kathy's belongings, and she can't get herself to do it, so she asks Dexter. And he notices something very weird. Her phone was missing. This was something she always kept with her, and it was now missing. He even called Masuka to confirm, yeah, it was gone. Sometime later, Deb does some detective work and finds out that Dexter and Jackie bumped uglies. She is extremely pissed off at Dexter for stepping out on his family and putting this whole investigation at risk. And sometime after that, Dexter was shooting scenes as an extra in the pilot. This whole little section of the book boils down to Dexter and Jackie flirting and telling each other they want to run away together. Meanwhile, Rita's been calling Dexter nonstop, to Dexter's annoyance actually. However, when he finally picks up, he finds out Astor's missing. He told her he'd be on his way for the rescue and told Jackie the same thing. She told him to go and that she had to go run lines with Robert anyway. When Dexter got home, he scanned over Astor's room for clues on where she might have gone, and they all led to one place. She had a dress that was missing and a bunch of photos of her and Robert Chase. If she was anywhere, she was with him. Now Dexter made his way back to the set and checked Robert's trailer. No one was in there. He assumed if they were anywhere, Robert was probably just showing Astor around the sites, around the set or something. Now Dexter made his way over to Jackie's trailer to check the shooting schedule. As Dexter made his way into Jackie's trailer, something wasn't right. The passenger uncoiled, and as Dexter made his way around, he found the lifeless corpse that was once Jackie Forrest. Dexter called Deb, and after she somewhat suspected him, being that he was the boyfriend, and it's usually the boyfriend who did it, she let that go and called Anderson, who as mentioned previously, was the lead on this case. He grilled Dexter a bit, but he truly had no evidence to back anything up, and a while later, Dexter still had no idea who killed Jackie, where Astor and Robert were, and now on top of all of that, Rita had left the house, left a message saying she'd be in contact shortly, but didn't end up even doing that. So she was now MIA too. So all Dexter could do now was try and find Astor, and he had the idea to go talk to the director, Victor, and after some questioning, Victor tells Dexter about this insane rumor that Robert Chase is a fucking creep-ass monster when it comes to children, because it wasn't exactly subtle. As a reader, you can pick up on it instantly, and it was wildly frustrating watching Dexter miss every single clue when he's gotten on to people for far, far less. However, he does have one semi-intelligent idea. They had bought a new house for their growing family and had been in the process of moving in. And Astor was a very big fan of this new house because she finally got her own room. So if she was going to be anywhere else with Robert, it was probably there. So when Dexter makes his way over there, still no word from Rita, he enters the house with a ferocity from the passenger we have never seen. Not only did Robert kill his future with Jackie, but he had also taken advantage of Dexter's daughter. And this had enraged Dexter more than anyone else he had ever killed, rightfully so. So as he made his way into the house, he was bashed in the head by Robert, with Astor in the background telling Robert he didn't have to hit Dexter so hard. When he woke up, Astor came over to talk to him. Apparently Robert had done the same thing with Rita that he did with Dexter, hitting her hard as shit that is. And now Astor was telling Dexter about how Robert was doing all of this killing and creepy horrible shit for her, that he loved her. It's just so nasty. Anyways, Robert came in and within 30 seconds, he was psychologically dismantled by a tied up Dexter, who got him to admit he would give up Astor to the cops in exchange for not going to prison. And then Astor just stabs Robert in the back. A super anticlimactic kill, but whatever. After Astor freed Dexter, they went to check on Rita. He died in Dexter's arms, and it was now time for Dexter to face the music. It was well and truly over. A cell was awaiting him. Without Rita to tell the cops that Dexter hadn't done all this, it would seem like he was trying to coerce Astor into telling his story. And with a couple dead Hollywood stars, one of them being Dexter's mistress and the other dead in Dexter's new house, his next stop was prison. So Dexter's Final Cut. The 7th book in this series to me was a bit of a dud. It was chock full of stupid character moments and decisions. It 1000% undermines all of Dexter's character development he's had throughout these books. Adds in a weird Hollywood romance novel subplot, which feels so wildly out of place. The final encounter with the villain of the book is so short and garbage. For lack of a better word, Robert Chase is a disgusting piece of shit, and his death is so quick and anticlimactic despite what Dexter said he wanted to do to him. And once again, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but Dexter doesn't even kill the bad guy. It's always someone else, and it's just tired at this point. Who knows, this next book is the last one in the series, and overall the lack of critical thinking from Dexter, coupled with a lame antagonist, and probably the most rushed ending of the entire series, this is a rough entry in the series. I just hope and pray we rally it back for the finale. Until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you guys sooner than ever